It is an open edition. Do you want to know more about our leaders, politics, and our society?
Humanity and civilization is about negotiations. They talk every day. They are paid heavily. We have not seen any difference. That is negotiation.
Nigeria has proven that it can sustain democracy and the people are ready to do what it takes. Join Mr. Ross Alabo George on Open Edition.
Every Saturday,
9 a.m.
to 10 a.m.
Exclusive on Today 95.1 FM.
Hello, Port Harcourt. Welcome to the maiden edition of Open Edition, your 1-hour seminar radio. Open Edition is a facilitated program and is purely a conversation on the controversial issues that continue to confront communities, states, and our nation. It is a fresh platform to cross-fertilize ideas and share opinions on politics, the economy, and our environment. Believe this, it is a seminar. My name is Ross Alabo George. I'll be facilitating today's edition, and I'll get to introduce the co-facilitators on this program. And like I said, this is going to be a 1-hour seminar on radio every Saturday. I will always be joined by co-facilitators Eugene Abels and Robinson Sibe. Mr. Eugene Abels is the director at the Over Table, former banker, educational consultant, a tireless advocate for development and democracy. Robinson Sibe is a GIS consultant and environmental specialist, and also a very passionate commentator on public affairs. He'll be joining us soon. And of course, this program will not be complete without you, the listeners. So we will be opening the phone lines at some point in the program so that we can get your views and contributions, and hope that we can cross-fertilize ideas, and then we're going to forge a way forward for society. Because it's not enough doing the complaints and complaining all the time. It's time for citizens to start talking. And I think this platform offers that. So let me quickly welcome Mr. Eugene Abels. Mr. Eugene. Mr. Eugene Abels, I don't know if I should welcome you, but because he's going to be a regular voice and has always been a regular voice on radio. Robinson Sibe. I will be joining us very soon. I guess he's caught up either in the floods in the city or just jammed in traffic. And today's edition, we'll be talking about what really affects us right now, and that is the flooding in Port Harcourt. It's become such a major issue, and after the break, we'll talk about the flood in Port Harcourt. It is natural. Everybody experiences flood at some point in time. And in Port Harcourt, we have seen that there is a rise in an increasing rate of flash floods around the city. Now, simply put, flood is too much water in the wrong place. And the rapid rates of urbanization and population growth in Port Harcourt City in the last 10 years have led to uncontrolled and uncoordinated development of swamps, floodplains, natural drainages, drainage channels, and thereby aggravating the risk of flood hazards in the city. On July 24, 2017, just a few weeks ago, the city and several other parts of the state saw another devastating flood that cost residents perhaps millions or billions in equivalent financial loss. We will never know because no one has cared to investigate or even respond to such emergencies. While floods happen almost everywhere in the world, especially in coastal areas like Port Harcourt, what continues to baffle me is the complete unpreparedness by agencies of government, be them state and federal government, that should alert and respond to these emergencies. What we see, and we've continued to see that, is the constant banter of and trading of blames and the blame games that we see. We will see government agencies tell us that, you people, that is the people, the residents, you don't take care of your drains. And then we hear the people say, government, you don't take care of the natural drains in the city, and you have poorly planned drainage systems. You don't have a drainage master plan, and there is simply no control in urban development. Well, enough of the blame games. We are all victims after all. And like they say, flood no dey select house. Thousands of residents in the city are still counting their losses, and it's been such a difficult time for a whole lot of them. So today's minute edition, we're in talking politics. We just want to sympathize with everyone who has been affected or impacted by the floods in the city, and we'll be discussing solutions. A beautiful thing is that this team of facilitators actually do have a whole lot of experience in the area of environment and social development. So I want to welcome Robinson Sibe. He's already in the house. So Robinson, welcome.
Thank you very much.
You are the environmental consultant here. What is the problem with Port Harcourt? Why is it that Port Harcourt floods every time between July and September? And what can we do about this?
Well, basically, Port Harcourt most of our problems are anthropogenic, they are man-made. And uncontrolled development, just as you stated earlier. When you see a city like Port Harcourt, ordinarily, yes, we're a coastal city, but we're not as underprivileged. We're not as we're not a bad case, really. If you really look at places like Amsterdam, places like the whole of Holland, 30% of Holland is below sea level, and Rotterdam, particularly 90% of Rotterdam is below sea level, as low as 6 meters below sea level. And how have they been able to protect themselves? Theirs is natural, ours is anthropogenic, man-made. And Port Harcourt basically is a flat topography. It's not. It's basically a monotonous flat topography. Of course, traversed by a labyrinth of creeks and tributaries and all that. So, how have we been able to put pressure on the nature, put pressure on ourselves, and without making, development is good, but development itself could be chaotic. It could be your, undoing if it's not planned, if it's not structured. Now, if studies have been done, and of course, we've been able to look at satellite imageries and all that. I think Professor Mom of Uniport and some team also did some comparison from 86 to 2007.
In terms of the flooding in the city?
Yeah, general land use study to see the land use pattern of the city, and residential areas had doubled between this period. Wow. I think from 11% of the total area to 20-something percent. And the water bodies also had reduced. And it's the water bodies that collect the drains.
True.
So because of increased dredging activities, the water bodies itself had also reduced. So you find a situation where you're depriving the environment of their natural collecting mechanisms, and you're not doing anything to help channel the drains properly. You're distorting the natural runoff. You're distorting the nature's way of. God is the perfect engineer.
The perfect architect.
Yes, a perfect architect, the perfect planner. So he had created natural runoffs and natural drains. But when we go put a house there, of course, we all know water must find its level. And like Fela said, water no get enemy. There's nothing that can defeat water. But you can channel it. So if you're blocking water from this way, how did Holland do this? Like I said, a city like Rotterdam is 90% of their total area is below sea level. So how have they been able to do that? You spend money, you plan. They have planned while the world was still contemplating if global warming was real.
Are you aware if the River State government has a drainage master plan?
I'm not aware. Even what's the essence of a master plan if it's not in practice? So even if that's in theory, even if there is some document like that, but I'm very, very aware that there is no articulated study of drainage master plan. Is not desktop. It's not. You don't just sit down and do it. It's something that if there is a proper drainage master plan, of course people will know. There's an intensive study.
And you see it work.
You see it work. Of course, you see it work. So. I don't need to be told that if there's any, there's none.
Thank you very much. I'll bring in Mr. Abels at this point. We understand that there are major challenges. Robinson Sibe has talked about the blocking of the natural channels, the reckless urban development, and we are not seeing much of controls in terms of urban development in the city. But one thing strikes me really hard. It is the way we respond to flooding. During the last flood, we had a situation where our governor performed better than the one in Lagos. The one in Lagos did not even go out to even tour. At least our governor went out to tour to see the damage that have been done, the devastation, all around the city. That is fine, but that is not enough. How do we respond? Because I know I read on your wall when you talked about we getting an alert, we were alerted, by some agency of government, but we failed to prepare, and people got affected, and still nobody distributed a pillow to anybody, and people suffered major loss.
Okay. First of all, I don't think we respond, we react. Well, that's a form of response. Now,
A form of response.
Yes. Now, we met the city called Port Harcourt. There was nothing called Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt was built because of the coal that was in Enugu. That's why it was built. And Port Harcourt is planned. The old Port Harcourt is planned. New layout, old Port Harcourt Township, Job, all the way down to Elekaya, parts of Elekaya, Rumibekwe, and so, Amadi Flat, D-Line, and so on. Now, because it was planned and they knew, imagine what Port Harcourt was then. Supposedly by the swamp, they had seen the creeks. Then, by 1970, we thought Bonny was very far, but people came thousands of miles from another continent and came here, saw Port Harcourt, grew it from where it was. Now, as a child growing up, I know you remember those massive storm drains that were made with bunk brick you see on Hospital Road. You saw them on Creek Road and so on. They're properly channeled. Now, whenever it rains, if you go to the post office, there's a major channel running under there that goes to Harbour Road towards the harbour there at MPA. Whenever it gets blocked, the whole of that area gets flooded because water comes all the way down from Eneka. Everything is properly channeled, meaning that there was a plan. There is a master plan done by the Dutch under Spief's administration. So it's nothing. So it was done in the past.
So it wasn't done by foreigners. It was done by foreigners,
by River State government.
No, it was done by River State government.
Yes,
because we paid for it
in the past when we didn't have CNN, when we didn't have mobile phones. People thought there was a need for a plan, and they had that plan. Now, subsequent governments have come and gone, and if you watch all that you keep hearing, it's brick and mortar. At a particular time in our political life, you just say, I build school here, I build school here, I build there. What is your plan? Now, what I expect that the government should have done over this year is that do an audit of the plans. There's a master plan. What has been done? Where are we?
A drainage master plan?
Everything for River State.
Okay.
And that plan used to cover Bayelsa, because I remember when the Ekeremo Bolorua Road, when we went there, the first day we went to do groundbreaking there, the road from Sagbama to Ekeremo, there was a what do they call these people that do this? A surveyor's signpost there that was survey that had been done. The sign is there, was done in 1972, and NDDC now was about to award that contract. All these things had been planned for and programmed. I expect that the younger people now in government is supposed to do an audit. What were the challenges these people met? What are the exceptional things about the topography of this state? Where have we abused it?
Exactly.
How do we place processes? What are the gaps? If you look at the nature of development, over 10,000 houses have been built in River State. Check out that Wimpy area, for instance. Thank God the governor comes from there. You find that it is not planned. So I expect that, yes, fine. Meaning that people decide not to wait for government and decide to go ahead to develop. Now, we have even come to modern times.
Who do you blame for that?
Government.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, we have gotten to a point where if you remember when we were talking about suits, where we're saying that the institutions, the academic institutions and the IOCs are supposed to give Rivers people, as one of social corporate responsibility, daily broadcasts about the quality of air. Because people do all these researches, they're all there.
Now you're taking us to another controversial
Yes,
point.
well, people are not so...
The suits in the city.
Yes, so, like those information, they might have told you that this year we have 2 seasons. We used to have 2. Now we just practically have 1 because of global warming. The Hamatan is no longer in existence.
Also, you believe in climate change?
Yes, I do.
So you're not a Donald Trump?
I supported him. Yes. So, but I supported him to ridicule the Americans. Yeah. So, where we are, you have free information. The least I expect, that's the coming. It's okay. while we're accomplishing the aspects of projecting, whatever you want to call it, that this is what they've said, that rains, there will be likelihood of flooding. While we're doing this, we're also begging the Lord, let the Cameroonians not open their dam. If they open it, we lose so many deities in the court. Deities lose the owners, they lose their deities. So you have plenty of information available to you that it's going to rain. The thing I expect that before as the rains come, clear the drains. Now, so the previous administration have introduced covered drains. I am not in support of them. One, the manholes are too small. Two, there's no evidence that they had kept infrastructure on ground to clear those things. Yes, because when they begin to block, as they've started happening on Ikwere Road, on Okija, whenever it rains, now it's flooded.
Whose responsibility is it to clear the drains?
The drains, the government.
Thank you. Tombarry, there is a key issue, which is, you mentioned that the development on floodplains. And clearly it is obvious that people do not recognize this, but almost 60% of Port Harcourt gets flooded whenever we have torrential downpours.
And Eka is still underwater.
Thank you. A whole lot of parts of Port Harcourt. It's just that people do not go around and people are only concerned about their areas. We're seeing that over 70% of natural floodplains, these natural basins that collect water, we're seeing the ones that people have done, we're seeing the ones that government has done, and government is doing. There's a lot of land reclamation going on and uncontrolled dredges without EIAs going on. You're an environmentalist. What do you think is the way forward? Because we know the issues. What is the way forward on this?
Well, let me take off from where Eugene stopped. You talk about master plan. Now, what's master plan if it is static? We look at everything we do in government these days like
cliches.
A project, build, operate, and then you hand over and transfer, and that's all.
Don't transfer, you dump.
Development is a continuous process.
Yeah.
At every given time, you take stock of
examine, audit.
And then, for example, all of what you said, that's over 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Every single development plan has to be reviewed.
Thank you.
At the most 5 years. Otherwise, even less than that.
Exactly.
Now,
the pace at which things are going.
We talk about Holland as a model of how to live below sea level. As prepared, they have already prepared for a storm that happens only once in 1,000 years. But as prepared as they spend almost €1 billion every year, still preparing. So it doesn't happen overnight. You have to be meticulous. You have to be articulate. You have to be disciplined in your plan. Now, yes, we want development. Yes, we want to own houses and all that. But if you look, just in reference to that study which I mentioned, if you look at the water bodies, it has shrunk by half, almost half, not half.
Yeah.
Now,
that's water bodies within Port Harcourt.
Yes, within the Port Harcourt area. What's responsible for that? Dredging activities. 2 years ago, the place in Eastern Bypass was still a creek. It was still
collecting water.
Yes. Now you have displaced that.
If you go to the Intawaba Creek now, they've reduced it to a drain.
Good.
People are dredging now by the Gulf Estate.
And then you now build retaining walls with concrete.
Yeah.
The absorption of water is poor, and then people are developing right on the banks of Intawaba Creek.
Yeah,
also.
and then you find out that the guy who is dredging on all those places they are reclaiming, they reclaim themselves high up.
Yeah.
They're high up.
Yes.
They are not
they
the
don't
ones,
get affected.
They don't get affected in the long run.
Yeah.
They push it to you that was there before them. So that's where you're supposed to have proper urban control. That look, it's not about I have a dredger or I have access to a dredger, you start pumping sand. No. Even from the EIA Act, which our forebears saw necessary to enact, you can't just come for a large-scale project without doing proper EIA. We already live by the virtue of our environment. We're already in a very sensitive place.
Sibe, let me just interrupt you on that. You just talked about environmental impact assessment.
Yes.
And we know that the state governments really do not have so much control on the environmental impact assessment process.
If you don't have control, then scrap Ministry of Environment, scrap River State Property Development, scrap your scrap them now.
No, because the federal laws actually put a whole bulk of the responsibility on environmental control and compliance on the federal ministry.
It's a federal law. But as a state organization, I can hold you at a corner for sanitation and urban reasons. Yeah.
Apart from the state, it's also a citizen thing.
Thank you.
A large chunk of EIA is socioeconomics, stakeholder engagement. If the public and if the people there stand and insist on being part of, NGOs are supposed to be. I once did a course. I once trained some group of NGOs on mainstreaming EIAs in their advocacy. Because if they insist that, look, this place, there must be an EIA. I know government.
Let me give you a typical example. Dolphin Estate.
Okay.
Let me not call name. Wanted to build a filling station. They came mobile police.
What's the name you just called again?
Don't worry. They put a filling station. Over 50 mobile policemen were guiding that site while they were developing. They went to court. Residents of Dolphin, that in the master plan, there was no provision for a filling station there. A filling station would distort that because buses and taxis would come there.
Because they had access to the master plan.
Kids will no longer have access to ability to ride their bicycle around. And they went to court and stopped that development.
Yeah, so it's even though government there's a small window for the public. In fact, by the very nature of the processes, you're supposed to leave it for public review, even after involving them in the build-up.
True.
You're supposed to leave it for public review for a particular period. It is when nobody comes to contest it that it's adopted.
Okay.
Now, you also don't blame the public sometimes because they don't know.
They don't know.
We have been miseducated.
Even when the EIAs are done, they just gather 4 or 5, guys, maybe the CLO of the project. There's somebody they've promised to be the CLO of the project. And,
which is an opening for chopping.
They take him
for empowerment.
Take him to somewhere
sustainable empowerment.
For pepper soup, and then they gist and they say, okay, this is your place. Just so that the socioeconomics report will make sense. You actually ask a few questions. Okay, this place, what do you guys do and all that? Just check the livelihood. And at the end of the day, they don't really involve the people. Even when they involve the people, they bring people that are more interested in the refreshment that will be offered.
I think we as even the people we even have
refreshment and thanks for coming.
We as the people even if the company calls them, it's okay, let's even sit down and discuss this thing. You hear somebody will tell you, this grandma, you talk of 10 years, they build the thing, you go bring
let me just shock you. Sorry for cutting you. We are more interested in post-impact assessment because it comes with compensation.
Yeah.
Than the assessment,
that's the
which
compensation
is a planning.
So nobody think about the other.
You just called it the compensation syndrome.
Yes, that's what's affecting the whole Niger Delta.
So is it a situation?
That's why you sit here and said the foreign businessman called oil company who owns 40%, who also pays you taxes and royalties should develop you. Can Shell build a school in Scotland? Can they try it? Will the local government let them?
You know why? Let's not digress.
It's
an aberration. Meanwhile, you own 60%.
Well, we'll be talking about that. You see,
you have never held
in this first edition, we told ourselves that we will not get into environmental and political issues.
No, these are not political now, because if you go behind the refinery there's a drain that you can't stand there for 5 minutes.
I think we should be talking about those environmental issues, especially with regards to Shell and the organic cleanup in one of the common editions very soon. And I'm sure somebody's going to facilitate that.
And what you keep hearing on the organic cleanup is money. Except yesterday, I started hearing Ganito by talking about that the EIA has expired, that there's a need to review it.
Now we still get back to the EIA.
Yes.
But now I want to hook you on the compensation policies. We have an area, for instance, and I've been making a case for the people in that particular part of Port Harcourt, GRA Phase 3.
Yeah.
Now there's an estate being developed right on the channel, right on the bank of Inter-Harbour Creek. And Inter-Harbour Creek collects, what they call that? The runoff water from Woji Road in GRA down up until GRA Phase 3 and up until Olobasanjo Road. Now, what's going on right now is that we're seeing...
even the water from Boricam, Inter-Harbour gets up there too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We've seen the map. I have right in front of me a flood vulnerability map of Port Harcourt. We're seeing the areas that are very vulnerable. Now, the what these companies that are developing, or the company that's developing the estate has done, just like Sibe said, is to reclaim Sanfil. And so they've raised the level.
You mean the one by the LNG road?
Not on the LNG road. That one is being done by government.
Okay.
This one is being done by a private investor who is blocking all the drainage flow into the creek.
Okay, in GRA phase 3.
In GRA phase 3, I think one of these streets, all those areas around one of these streets and prefab and all of those areas.
Okay.
So when it rains, the runoff water does not pass because the channel has been blocked. And just like Sibe said, how can we have a government, okay, or we should have a government control mechanism? You've said that also. We should have an agency in government that is in charge of development controls that goes to at least visit the site, not just to collect the money for what they call that stuff that they Obiako and Port Harcourt City local
revenue, whatever they call it.
Building permits. Doesn't the building permit? Who is in charge of development control?
It's about, first of all, the name and the office exists, but the capacity and the wherewithal to run such office is what most of these things, I think they were done innocently.
I think no. Before you even go further, we must stop. I think they should just send all of us back to School of Governance. We have abused everything.
No,
you see, a governor will tell you, our president will tell you, I have 7-point agenda. The Constitution provided for a minimum number of ministries, and those ministries have specific functions
And
to cater for all aspects of development. So if you can prioritize, but it doesn't mean those people won't function.
No, the thing is, let's say you empower them to function. For example,
I hate that word. As long as you receive your salary. As long as you receive your allocation.
It's not
statutory allocation.
Empowerment.
Leadership is also important.
Empowerment, it's not your salary. I'm talking about your tools for work.
The people are paying for your service.
No, I'm talking about tools for work for this particular instance.
Okay. Because it involves a lot of technology.
It involves a lot of technology and money.
You took money from.
When was the last time the Rivers State government procured any satellite imagery of any sort?
What are they doing with their federal allocation?
I'm telling you,
but the thing is, the public, we the people, have provided money for you and to procure everything. Don't use all and build road.
One of the reasons why
I get your point.
One of the reasons why
it's about appropriation for you.
Yes.
One of the reasons why we deprive of ourselves of Saturday rest and be here is to push the agenda, to push forward these things. I believe most of these things are done innocently. For example, these guys who are building, I think they were giving C of O innocently to help, solve the housing crisis. But beyond that, you don't just give C of O. It has to fit into a plan. Now, when you look, you go to Lagos, they tell you, they've reclaimed this. It's beautiful. Lagos, this place used to be flooded and all, So we just jump and go into such, wholesome development without really analyzing what are we doing to ourselves. This place, let's look at the flood master plan.
That's why our fathers made sure that before you build, you submit your building plan.
Yes.
So even if you have a CFO for the land, you're not allowed to develop completely all of the land.
And let me shock you. One of the reasons why we're failing is that we have inherited that system of our fathers just directly like that, without being a bit dynamic to understand the trends. At the time, they were not going to.
I think I would like to correct you.
No, let me land.
I would like to interrupt you there because if we implemented it to the letter the way our fathers designed it, there will just be a little gap. Right now, we just sign it.
No, let me land.
Yes.
We were limited to a space.
I agree.
That's one. Two, at the time, nobody had any business to go Sanfil anywhere to build any house. There was land.
There was sufficient.
So you choose, where you want. But we are currently constrained right now. So which means...
Are you?
For land. We're constrained.
When towards Norway there's land.
Towards Norway, how do you drive? How do you drive from Norway to Secretariat?
All I need is less than a 200-meter culvert over the Abloma Creek, and I'll be in Norway in 10 minutes.
That brings us to the point of development plan.
I can go left towards the Obakre here. I just need a 200-meter bridge or culvert over that Iwofe River. And I will develop towards a Ahoda.
Well, that's still
before you do the cover. Remember to do the EIA.
What's your plan?
Remember to do that.
What's your plan?
Now, the point is, just
we're not constrained. Everybody can't live
No,
in the whole GRA.
Mr.
It's supposed to be
I
low
think
density.
Now you're talking about, we're still getting back to the point of development planning.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be, it's the same reason why we're having migration into urban migration.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to come into the center. Nobody wants to go to Norway right now
because
the government has not planned. We have better Port Harcourt.
May I remind you that when we were growing up, Olu Obasanjo was called Man Must Work because it was supposed to be a deadly place where they kill people. People took the courage.
Did you know that place was
yes, since you took over power.
You were still very
since
young,
your generation took over power.
Which
have
generation?
you created your generation?
No, it is your generation.
Okay, I
right
agree. We'll take
Thank
it.
you.
Have you created another?
How Kistewan is listed? Is you and Kistewan.
Have you created another GRA where people can travel? Look, I'm going to live there.
That's
just the small
now,
thing you saw
the point
in Gulf Fest. Everybody wants to live in Gulf Fest.
That's the point I think Tombari was trying to make.
Yeah. You've not created another thing from all you inherited. You're just congesting
to create. They give this emergency hurry.
You don't need to create it. I just took it back. The GRA phase 1, phase 2, old GRA phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and Amadi flat. Minimum size of land was 2,000, 3,000 something square meters. Yeah. Until Ross's brother came and started balkanizing it.
Sorry, who's that?
Your brother.
Which of them?
I won't call his name here.
What's his name? In what year?
He ran for governorship against Odili, so leave the rest.
You see, you have started.
Yes.
Now, Mr.
But you
have us into the political
you have not created. We, our generation, have not created
I think
another low density area that is worthy of people to live.
Fantastic. Somebody was trying to make the point that I think
they should flog us.
We have a reckless, sprawling development within the city.
Yeah.
And the city is getting congested.
What's that grammar, Yusuf? Man-made.
Anthropogenic.
Oh, Jesus.
Tombari, the city is already congested. It is going to take, I don't know if we're going to have a remedial plan. Areas around Alabo George, GRA phase 3, we have areas in Woji, we have, in fact, 60-70% of Port Harcourt definitely flood vulnerable. The development has already taken place.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
You can place a grid over it. You can come up with a plan. Place a grid over it.
What do we do? Because after now, we're going to take some calls from some of our listeners and then respond to some, because I know a lot of people are actually affected.
I think, first of all, I want to bring it down. First principles. Before you appreciate remedial plans, it's good to understand the cost of failing to remedy.
Exactly.
One of the things we fail to do is to put a cost to this flood.
Yeah.
Exactly. Is it the cost to the flood or the cost to the loss?
That's the cost of the flood to the people. The economic
impact, the effect of
the economic
it.
impact. Yes.
What you've lost.
If we are able to put a cost to it,
once it's not cash, we don't think
you
we're losing.
You will understand what
we
are losing when we don't. For example, I keep going back to Holland because they are a world model on how to live in very challenged
You always
environments.
talk about going to Amsterdam.
Never mind.
Not the red light district.
Anyway, I don't know what that is. And you see, when you see like Holland, when they asked the chief control officer why he's spending so much, what he said was, if Holland is allowed to flood for one day, they will lose 700 billion euros. That's what the economy will lose.
Yeah, instead of spending 1 billion annually.
Instead of allowing that to happen, he would rather spend 1 billion
euros
annually.
Beautiful.
So we need to first of all understand the costs first before we understand why. Yes, we need to, because if you don't understand the cost, you will not have the impetus to challenge. Because you
cannot even make a case.
You cannot make a case, and then even in planning, you're going to step on toes. Are you willing to sacrifice policy? Because some buildings will go down.
I think that's what a politician.
Of course, I always like to refer to New York. New York is a coastal city.
Yes.
And migrants were all the Italians.
Still floods, like.
No, New York was a coastal. It became distorted. Mm-hmm. But they took a decision and placed a grid over New York. That's why you can see some streets will be as long as from here to Obibo.
Yeah.
Everything on the path, because they needed to get the city organized. So it's not late. But
no,
I agree.
It's not
I
late.
agree where you said
is it actually not late? If the master plan has failed, and then we have the plan for a new, I think personally for me, I'm not a big fan of Rotimi Amechi, but I think that one of the most fundamental legacies of that man has been the plan for a new phase of Port Harcourt called Greater Port Harcourt. So if this master plan has failed, what do you think is the most pragmatic remedial action that
the first thing is there are no shortcuts to planning. You need to first of all study.
I think let me put it in perspective the way you just said it. First of all, we need to agree there's a cost.
Yes.
Know how much that cost is. Then, like I said there has to be an audit. We need to go and dust up. What was the plans these people made, and where have we fallen short? We need to audit it. We identify the problems. That audit will enable you identify the gaps. When you do, then you begin to plan on the way forward.
Yeah, you need a detailed study.
We don't need plenty grammar.
No, you need a study.
I know,
studies.
No, not you. I mean the politicians coming on air to speak grammar. I need detailed study.
Well, the politicians,
consultants always talk about studies.
No. I mean agreement,
because your planning will be built around.
And can I shock you?
It has to be empirical.
Can I shock you?
It's a scientific problem.
That if we go into UST, we go to Uniport, and we go to Shell, Ajip, you'll be shocked the amount of studies that are there on the shelf.
I was about getting to that point.
Okay.
That when you plan, you set aside a component. When you have institute of this, institute of that, it's not just to answer the big name.
Yeah.
Governments, the private sector, people like Shell, people like Total who have money can actually come together and say, look, every year we expect you to do this. We expect to partner with you
part of the corporate
in this regard. It's not about building schools alone.
Yeah.
And if every year they look at it, they do an audit, they evaluate their current position, they look at the floodplain, they look at how much of the land is challenged, how much of the development activities is posing a threat and all that. So it has to be updated at almost no cost if you use the people in the academia.
Yeah.
Because they're writing papers and
every day
getting promoted at school for it.
Exactly.
But they just want access
and
to
even their budgets,
things like imagery, things like
which are available,
photogrammetry tools, remote sensing.
So can we have a consensus here? Just like let me put you on the spot. Can we have a consensus here?
I don't think we can.
In the past 20 years to date, we have failed to develop Port Harcourt. Do we agree?
If you know that is a difficult question to answer.
No,
but
that's
I think
I don't agree. We have not. What I
we have
rather
failed to
agree
control
is
development.
we have not developed sustainably.
Now, if you say you have controlled development, means there is development. You mean there is development? What is happening in Port Harcourt is that in sync with contemporary development of cities?
I think what has happened is that we had our master plan fail up all until
you see you have broad grammar.
No.
The test is yes or
we
no.
have
we need to agree
that failed in
it's
the
not
80s.
a PDP or APC thing here.
We agree
people,
that Port Harcourt is developing, but that it is developing in an unsustainable way.
Exactly.
Is Bundu Waterside not developing?
Bundu Waterside
is that development?
There's build-up going
but
on.
not.
Build-up doesn't translate to development. That's what I want to say.
The man,
there's negative
the man who
development.
moved from a thatched
There's
house,
negative
the man who moved from a thatched house,
that grammar way give me that
a brick house,
what's that?
has developed.
What's that, man?
But is it developing sustainably?
What's that word again?
Anthropogenic.
Anthropogenic. When we get back, we'll be talking about the anthropogenic developments and the what's the other one again?
It simply means man-made.
But the beauty of it is that we're in an era of sustainable development. And sustainable development simply means that you're developing in a way that does not impact the future.
Yes.
We'll be back, and when we come back, we'll be taking your calls. And all right, welcome back to Open Edition. Still in the studios, Robinson Sibe, Mr. Eugene Abels on the controls. Facilitating the program for today. We'll be taking your calls. Numbers to call are 081 095 10951 and 081 7000951. So I'll take the numbers again: 081 095 10951 and 081 7000951. A whole lot of you already have the number because you're regular callers. So we'll be taking your calls right away. So Tom Barry, what is the role of the citizen? Hello? We have a call.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? What's your name and where you calling from? That's what they're about to say on radio, right? What's your name and where you calling from? Okay, so Tomberry, we always blame ourselves, but we also understand that everybody has a role to play. They talk about citizens cleaning their drainage, and then the citizens also accuse government of not doing enough to control development. And who is responsible? Am I supposed to pay my tax and clean my drains?
Well, we're a community. We're an African community. We need to be realistic. We need to be realistic. The capacity of our waste management system is very bad.
Yeah.
You clean your drain, and you're supposed to now pack it elsewhere.
I love that one that we do on Saturday.
And nobody comes
a month.
to clear it, and then it rains the next day and it goes back into the drain. So we're in a vicious cycle of that. But that should not stop us from doing what we have to do. But government must. Okay, I think the call is coming in.
We have a call. Hello.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
My name is Rona, sir.
All right.
I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
Oh, okay. Please, let's hear you.
Yeah, my contribution is whatever we say here, you have to consider the fact that there is graft. So at every death, there's someone collecting money that cuts the corners and allows all these things to happen.
Absolutely.
So whatever we are discussing, we consider corruption and graft. Because that is the major thing that affects everybody. That makes whatever we are planning not to work. So that's our contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So he's still talking about corruption and how the system has been this how corruption gets the system dysfunctional.
When it comes to those kind of things, and I've been everything about me has been banking. So what we sell
and the banking sector, I hear
what we sell is money.
It's not better.
What we sell is money. Yes, you can't steal our money except we allow you to. Yes. So you as a junior staff, they give you responsibility. One of the things is to make sure nobody takes that money because the money is for somebody. Do you understand me? So we know that these things exist. That's why I said the buck stops with the number one citizen or the number one applicant who has applied to do the job. You know these things will happen. So there must be a mechanism for checks and feedback. Yeah. For the fact that you cannot query me if you have not, according to Sibe, you've not empowered me. Nobody was informed. There were no warnings after NAMIT gave its other information.
And there was no
the Ministry of Environment, which had a very, very qualified person who had been in government before.
Okay, I think we have a call just in terms of that. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you? What's your name and where are you calling from, please? Okay.
You blame the government because once the head is bad, every part will be bad because the head leads every part of the body. So the government to blame. That's what I will say.
Well, I agree with you. Are you still there?
I'm here.
But if you blame the government, do you think that you have a responsibility to? Do you think that you should keep? Because we understand that a lot of drains are getting blocked. Do you think that you have a role to play?
Yes, everybody has a role to play, but the person that the people that should be blamed is the government because is the government that is the leader. How can you blame a student when there's a lecturer? We are still learning. The government is leading us. The government will encourage us. The government is supposed to do the needful. Nobody's supposed to block a drainage. It's very bad. Everybody have a role to play. But at least, let me give it 30-70. We 30, government 70. That is what I would say.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Tomberry.
Yeah. Government is in charge of the system. It's a waste management system. The people only act responsibly by not deliberately blocking the drains because no matter how efficient the system is, if you deliberately keep throwing things in
there
the
should
drain,
be compliance control.
Yes, there should be compliance control. But I understand where Mr. Abels is coming from. There should be consequences. I also had a banking experience, and the last ritual before you sign up is they take you a tour of prison facilities in Lagos. because that's to tell you this way you
That's a
end up.
psychological.
Yes,
so that
it's the optics of controlling, telling you where you end up if you do this. So, but the situation where you throw this thing, nothing happens. The government also does not come do their own, and nothing happens. So we are just in a field. We are in our own field.
Let me just take it in perspective here. Very simple, and it's becoming a norm. And when you talk to the average young person, it gets quite nauseating. A government comes on board and does not do an audit of the previous administration. And when they do, they keep it secret. It's just very rife in the Niger Delta. Now, when you raise this issue, somebody will tell, oh, Lagos, and they talk, they need to do them. I don't have to wait for Lagos. We cannot continue in this form when we want to be better, except maybe governance is for other reasons. The least I expect is that government should come on board, do an audit of what the other man did. The essence of an audit is waiting you leave, how many chairs you leave, how many we need, how many do we need in 5 years, so that there is a plan for each ministry. Today, if you move around Port Harcourt, you see mad people at every junction until somebody is attacked.
Sorry.
When somebody is attacked, then we will now set up a panel of inquiry.
Sorry, Mr. Ebos, please continue. Hello.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Stop the Suit. That's what I answer on radio.
Stop the suit. Okay, stop the suit.
And then we're supposed to know ourselves now.
Welcome. Stop the suit.
In terms of this argument of whose responsibility it is, the drainages has to do with flood. Sorry, I have to ask one question. If there is a bad network when you're using a particular network, who do you complain to? It is the mobile provider, the network provider.
Yeah, true.
Now, if we want to accuse the people of blocking the drainages, my brother, the question I'll ask you, what do we do with our refuse? If we gather it and put it where they say put, and the people don't come to collect it, what do we then do? Should the citizens refine it? Now, why I'm saying this is because they will always tell us in developed countries, in terms of corruption, they don't point to developed countries. It's when it has to do with the common man, they'll tell you in developed countries. In the developed countries, I think the government don't have hands in all this. It is the private sector. So if the government chooses to hold all this, we are in charge of garbage disposal, we are in charge of this, all businesses. In Nigeria, politics is the biggest company. And the oil industry of Nigeria. Yes. Now, what I'm saying is that let the government make conducive atmosphere for investors to come. There are people who use this garbage and refuse and make out things. Therefore, you will see people coming to beg you, give me your refuse. And you will not see these things. Outside that, let's use case study of River State. Riwama, somebody was complaining. Since January till now, I don't think we've done up to 3 environmental sanitations. Because of what? Political reason. We have one occasion or the other.
I don't think we need. I don't support that. That is a carryover of the military era. I don't need.
Sorry, sir. I know. Personally, I don't support it. But because we are Africans and we are used to it, that is what makes us clean our home. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
It is now our culture. This is what moves us. They will say in Nigeria, if you don't force them, they will not do something. If this is what will keep us at home to do it, then let us do it until we go to the next level. We have to count 1 before we count 2.
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So, like,
Mr. Ebel, I think he just raised a very fundamental issue. Riwama, how do you assess
Riwama? Riwama, I just want to appeal to them. It does not make sense that Wike will go and borrow money from the bank and build a road with 20 billion, then we'll go and be pouring refuse, use it as a collection point for refuse disposal. It didn't happen after the war. I was born here in Port Harcourt. Riwama, beg, change them. There are lots of boys who a lot of boys who followed you people to do politics.
Sorry,
share the streets.
Sorry, let me just interrupt you. We have a very
controversial man there. K-Man.
Robinson. This is K-Man on the line.
Oh God. Did jot. There are so many boys who did who supported them for the politics. These boys, the streets, Port Harcourt can be partitioned for these young men to gather the refuse, get people and force people to use black bags to pack their bags so that they gather them at a particular point. There's a lot of employment potentials in refuse collection in Rivers State.
True.
Yes, and there's the collection point. There's the issue of separation, so that recyclable materials like plastic takes an ounce of plastic takes about 500 years to degrade. So people can't afford to import LDPE and polypropylene materials, but we can gather recyclable materials for factories to use, and this will provide money. It doesn't make sense that in the middle of a very beautiful road in 2017 world that we're pouring refuse on the center of a dual carriageway. Jesus, this is unfair. So the brother in charge of Riwama should try another practice. And if you look at their budget, I know it's in excess of 400 million what they expend for refuse collection.
You're very correct. So
Yeah.
we have Keman on the line. Keman, sir. Why should your network be poor? Keman, this is an era of change.
I think he's using NITEL.
Well, I don't know whether the problem is from me.
Signal recession.
Or from the studio, or from...
Tom Barry is saying it is signal recession.
But let me attempt to say this. I think that it's one thing to expect people to do the right thing. It's another thing for people to realize that when they do the wrong thing, they get punished for it.
Yeah.
Just for as much as I don't expect that we should be celebrating refuse collection or disposal, because what happens now is disposal really. So I think that what you should be thinking about is not to make it a ceremony, like somebody said, and Eugene corrected him, the issue about public holidays because we want to clean. But you see, that's what we have for now. So if we can't get the best, let us try and make that which is second to the best a bit more regular. Maybe somewhere at the end of the day, it just might pick up as a habit. So we must stop this thing about holding the people responsible for refuse issues, because the government has not provided the alternative.
So Keman, you are blaming the government of Rivers State for the flood in Rivers State.
No, the government all over the place.
The government all over the country.
All over the place. There are areas where the flood issue is a natural disaster, more or less.
Okay.
Ours is not a natural disaster. It's man-made.
It's man-made. Anthropogenic.
Develop in places we're not supposed
It's
to develop.
anthropogenic. We've learned that one.
Natural channels for water, and tomorrow we say it's natural disaster. No way. It's not natural. It's in us. It's in the government. The government at all levels. Let us take the issues of environment seriously.
Thank you very much.
Not calling people who are advocates like somebody, I think McCain called God, your zone man. Today we now know who is the zone man. Thank you very much, guys.
Yes.
I expect to see you before you get out of my community.
Came on, we are in your community. I definitely will come around. Thank you so much. It's such a wonderful. That was the last call, and that's from Keman. I don't think any call will.
Yeah. So
by
so that we don't end up like every other radio program, we need to we need to make direct demands on the government. We're not insulting them, but we just want to know that Rivers State, whoever is leading Rivers State, should know at the back of his mind that there's gas flaring, there's coal fire, there's distorted anthropogenic problems in the city. There's wrong. Keman has introduced a new one: dispersal of refuse.
Refuge dispersal.
So we're heading for major problems. Our medical facilities cannot support those things. Yes, because the suit every morning, I'm looking for money now to paint my house because everywhere is dark. So we need to appeal to the government that in as much as you see road construction important, it's beautiful. Yes, it's wonderful. You have limited resources, but environmental issues will sustain the human resource, which will help you go forward.
Thank you very much. Tom Barry, your last word, like Keman will say your last word.
My last word and last sentence or sentences. I think let's be realistic. We need to build our solutions around what is possible, what's not possible. I agree with everything everybody has said here. we need to plan. We need to realize that planning, if you don't plan, you spend more to react. And that's not what we want to do.
Thank you very much. This is the entire program for today. Open edition. This was the maiden edition, and it was fundamental that we talked about the key core issues that are facing our people, which is the flood in Port Harcourt.